Hello and welcome to Friends of the Force, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Brad.
And I'm your host, Sarah.
And we are back this week on the show talking about Beware the Nameless by Zoraida Córdova. It's the middle grade novel as part of Phase 3, Wave 2 of the High Republic. And we're diving in. We're having some thoughts about it. But Sarah, it's been a minute. It's been actually
2 minutes.
2 minutes. And if you mean, if by minutes you mean months, then yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I do mean that actually.
Mm-hmm. We've had busy lives.
We have been like disproportionately busy this fall in a way that like, I think we both looked in the calendar and were like, oh, it's going to be busy. And then we were in the thick of it and we were like, oh, it's busy. So here we are now. Apologies for being a little tardy on this book conversation, but we're back to talk more High Republic because do not think even for 1 second that we would leave you without a High Republic conversation. We would never. Never. We're so close to the end. We would never do that to you.
No, we're seeing this thing all the way through.
This is very important for us. So
yeah, no, I'm excited. We have some really solid books to discuss between this, Tears of the Nameless, which I think is probably going to be one of our most intense, deep divey book discussions we'll have ever recorded. More to come on that. No spoilers here, but more to come. But yeah, it feels good. I bought a house. That's one reason. I'm in the process of buying a home so I can have a place to sleep and do more of this podcasting.
I mean, well, to be clear, he does have a place to sleep.
Home. Yeah.
Now he has an apartment in which he lives currently, but has purchased a home in which he will move.
I just want a roof over my head that I'm paying for. No more of this landlord nonsense.
Right. Especially since your landlord lives upstairs.
Right. Like literally my roof is his roof.
Yeah. And that's
enough of that.
That's too many people under one roof.
No. Big boy decisions being made. So I'm in the process of doing that right now. It is a process. Let me tell you, I know too much about insurance that I don't want to know. I wish I could unknow.
I think we should all know that much about insurance because I don't know a lot about insurance.
How about the sins done to the nameless? How about the sins done to the uninsured? You know what I mean? Let's get insurance for everybody. Home insurance for free.
And medical insurance.
And medical insurance.
And dental insurance. And vision insurance.
Yes.
These should not all be separate things. Dental insurance is part of medical care. In this essay, I will. But you know, that's another podcast.
Stamp of approval. Retweet it. Go vote on November 5th.
That is important. Please, if you are an American, please go vote. Check your registration status. Make a plan to vote. If you need help making a plan to vote, you can tweet me. I'm actually really serious about that. We will help you find a plan to vote. It's important that you make your voice heard. Is it the end all be all of political participation? Is it making a choice you're really enthusiastic about? Not necessarily. And not necessarily to that one and no to the first one. I did that out of order. But it is an important part of the political process. So whether you live in the US or across the world, please ensure that you are voting and participating in your political process in the ways that makes the most sense and maximize the effect of what you want to be heard with. That wasn't a good. That was not a well-placed sentence, but the message is there. I think it's fine.
You tried.
Because I haven't podcasted in 2 months.
I know. Hey, the message was there. The sentiment is there. Go vote. Mm-hmm. Very important. The galaxy depends on it. Please.
I mean, actually, literally though. But like, I know you're kind of like saying, oh, the galaxy far, far away. But no, like our actual galaxy, though, because like there are people who want to colonize Mars, and I just like don't think that we should be doing that. But like that, again, that's just me. Not that that's governments, but you know.
What if we go to Mars? Right? Okay, hear me out.
Yeah.
Hear me out. What if we go to Mars, and we find some little uwu babies there, and we say, ooh, let's take those little uwu babies away from their home. What do you think of that idea?
Oh. Okay, I think that's like really compelling because then we could bring them back to Earth, right? And then show them to everybody and be like, ooh, the uwu.
Little uwu babies.
Mars babies.
Right.
But that would be complicated, wouldn't it? Because we would be taking them from their home and bringing them to a place where they're not familiar.
Mm-hmm.
and we would be taking them from their families.
Just think though, we could
And-
weaponize them against our enemies, the Jedi Order. Just think about it. Think about it.
You're on to something, but I'm a little concerned that there's a sin, that it's a sin to take them from their home.
Perhaps
What if we just brought more people to Mars?
to Mars. That's an idea.
It's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, just wanted to think about it.
Just gonna ponder that one.
Yeah, ponder it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ponder
Yeah.
our nameless uwu babies.
That's right.
That's what we're doing today. Beware the nameless. But before we get into that, sorry, I don't know
Yeah.
what we're doing here. This is, you could see we're working the rust off. We're doing a little yes anding, trying to test it out. Had a little laughing fit before we recorded, and so that was odd. So we're just continuing the good vibes. We're just here. We're here.
Right. It's funny because neither of us actually take comedy classes nor like improv classes, but we work on our yes and skills whenever we talk with each other. So, we got to be getting somewhere here if we want to have a career in comedy, which we don't. But like if we did, we would have the transferable skills.
Right. And this is also like my first opportunity to have like a WebEx like Zoom meeting in like the last month and a half where it's not talking about like deliverables and like things. And blah, 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 blah. So like, I'm out of my zone. I'm out of my work zone right now. I'm taking advantage of it. It feels good to be back. Is what I'm saying, Sarah.
Yeah.
Things might get weird.
They already have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird, let's talk about New York Comic Con because it's weird that I'm not there this year because I'm too stressed. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
The idea of a con this year to me, just like this week specifically, I was like, I just don't, like tens of thousands of people, 8 hours on the train and like 12 hours on the train, 13 hours on the train round trip.
Why does it take so long?
That's round trip. So it's like 6 hours.
Why do we
Still
not have bullet trains in the US? That's ridiculous.
Moving into a new home soon. So anyways, I didn't go to New York Comic Con this year, but we did have the publishing panel today. Our good friend Arzu Amin at the Geeky Waffle did some live tweeting, which was fantastic. Shout out Arzu. Thank you for all the updates.
Yes, for
Appreciate
reals.
it. I'll link that thread in our episode description. But what were you gonna say, Sarah? I cut you off there.
I forgot.
Oh,
I was gonna say. Oh no, I have it. It's still a good joke. I was gonna say the publishing panel does go on even if you are not there to live tweet it. Ooh.
Oh, it's like the forests, the tree in the forest. If it falls, doesn't make a sound. Kind of situation.
Kind of like that.
I did feel a little weird though. It was like my first New York Comic Con publishing panel I haven't been to since. Like 2019 was my first one.
Right.
And I got a kick out of live tweeting, and so I kind of missed it. Missed it.
I still think your bunker is very silly for that because I live tweeted one panel at like Celebration 22 and I was so stressed.
It's fun. I love it. I love the rush.
I just feel like I'm like spending a lot of time looking at my phone screen and like attempting to make sure I get all the photos and make sure I'm not misquoting anybody and like have the right detail. No. And then everybody's like, they got their eyeballs on you because they're like counting on you for the updates. Oh, I'm just a girl.
Yeah. It was
I'm just a girl.
Celebration London, like when I accidentally tweeted out that Courtney Cox was in the Acolyte, but I meant Carrie Ann Moss because that was embarrassing. I deleted that tweet. You can't find it anymore. It's gone.
Yeah, you're mentioning it.
I know. But it's like the pressure. I get what you mean. The pressure.
Yeah.
You mistype something. You're like, my whole thread, but it's been retweeted by like 20 people. No.
Right.
Anyways.
Well,
Twitter's dying, so it's fine. Yeah. Twitter's dying, so it doesn't even matter anymore. Fine.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So you're gonna have to do live tweet on Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter at the same time.
Now I'm stressed.
You got to do all the notes in like your Safari, or Notes app or like Google Keep, and then you have to like copy and paste it to all the things in real time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No thanks.
The landscape is changing.
Yeah.
I don't know if like TweetDeck exists for all of the different platforms at once.
TweetDeck does not exist anymore, sadly.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gone. Or it might cost like $10,000 or something. I don't know.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. But speaking of Twitter dying, you know what else is dying? Some of our favorite characters probably in Trials of the Jedi. So let's talk about New York Comic Con.
Yeah. I was going to say the Nameless, but then I was like, not my uwu babies.
No. How dare you? How dare you say
I'm
that?
really sorry. I didn't know where you were headed with that transition, so I was trying to like come up with the right answer.
It was like, guess who else is dying? Me. I got 1 week. See ya.
I mean, that's what I kind of thought for like a half second. I was like, where are you heading with this?
By the way, anyway, we're recording Tears right after this because
and by he does
ticking.
not mean he does not mean like we're gonna hit end record, because I have not finished that book. And he would never spoil the ending.
I can't spoil it for you.
Meanwhile,
it's so good.
I'll read the last page of a book first. I don't
Listener,
care.
if you know, you know. You know. Sarah doesn't know, but I know that you know. We all know, but Sarah doesn't know yet. And I can't wait for Sarah to know in like a couple weeks, because then you, listener, will know with us that Sarah knows. And then we're going to have an all-knowing episode where we know. If
That's
you know
right.
what I know. If you know what I mean.
But right now, we don't know about Trials because none of us have read that book yet. But we got a little bit of insight.
Except that one day when Charles Soule posted on his Instagram the front page of the manuscript, and then we like rotated it and like inversed the image and then like brightened it and then like did all the contrasting, and we tried to figure out, and all we got was like the forest is everything, and that's all we really figured out. So
yeah, they were making maybe a couple sentences, and we're like, oh yeah, the forest, yeah. Star Wars,
something
the
about
High
the Force.
Republic,
Yep,
the
nice
Nameless,
job, Charles.
Yeah,
Charles did a good job. Nice job.
This
Kudos.
one's gonna be a banger. Like this one's gonna be real good.
I remember Charles on Twitter being like, whoever like does that, kudos to you. Good try. Like try it, whatever. And we're like, oh, that's us. That's us right now in the club.
Yeah.
Well,
in the club we all fam.
In the club we all fam, rotating Charles Soule's Instagram images.
I don't know where that meme came from, but I
don't
keep
either.
saying it.
Am I too old?
I just keep saying it. I think we're too old.
Yeah.
But I keep saying it because I find it really funny.
Well, in the publishing club, we are all firm. Okay, so anyways, people dying. Characters are dying in Trials of the Jedi. Basically, New York Comic Con, we got some news about Trials of the Jedi. We didn't get a cover reveal, which I'm very sad about.
Yeah, that was notable. That was notable that we did not get that cover. I was like, what are you hiding?
And when are they saving it for? Possibly a High Republic show episode, because we haven't gotten one in like 2 years. Please.
Oh,
Lucasfilm. Anyways, that could be a whole episode on that absence.
We miss you, High Republic show. A lot.
But from our friend Arzu, so Arzu tweeted that from a quote from Charles at this panel. He says, as we get towards the end of Trials of the Jedi, every character's life comes down to 4 to 5 pages at the end of the book, and you will feel bangs on table. So
great.
This was also this was also said alongside some new images of Buryaga, Bell, Elzar, Avar, and Aslan Rel, all in new Jedi armor, High Republic armor, gold and white. A lot of the masks are like the Temple Guard masks. Elzar or Aslan has his like, Aslan's blind, so he's got like a more of a kind of like the helmet that Luke wears in A New Hope, like that kind of covers his eyes and everything. So it's really cool. Really cool armor going on here. Everybody looks pretty hot, I will say. Avar.
Yeah, and
Avar.
What
are you doing? What are you doing tonight?
I'm proposing to Avar right now, but I'm also here to say Elzar man kind of big. Elzar man big.
Out of context quote, Sarah, Elzar man is kind of big.
No, he just, I mean, look at the arms. Where do those arms come from?
No, he looks super swole.
The arm big.
I mean, like even Bell's arms are kind of beefy looking. I mean, Buryaga too. Buryaga is like literally bursting at the seams out of his armor.
I mean, he's also just a large guy because he's a Wookiee.
He is a Wookiee, granted. There's going to be
tall dude.
Yeah, and you can't contain all that hair.
Yeah, they just all got, they realized that the shit was going down and they all hit the gym for real. They were like, we got to get our strength training regimen in check. Every day is arm day. Every day is leg day. And every day is back day. We get no rest days. And they end up like this.
Remember when Daniel Jose Older wrote the Bake Off Spectacular comic for High Republic Adventures?
Of course I do. I love that one.
I need that comic, but it's like all of these characters like hitting the gym.
Yes.
It's like the prelude to Trials. It's just like the Trials prelude. Like Elzar Man and Avar go to the gym.
Be like, how many reps you doing on this set?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're only doing that with 50 pounds?
Right.
Doing it with 70.
And then like Avar's like, "Who? Let me spot you." And she like, like kind of. I don't know. Maybe it turns into a little lovemaking session. Who knows?
Press?
I don't know.
That's so funny.
I mean, we all read Temptation, right? I mean, we're just saying what's going to happen. My question is, do they kiss with the armor on or the armor off? I want to know. I want to know.
All right. Anyways. Another conversation for another time. But point being, why are they all in the armor? Maybe because they have to face a foe that they have not faced before. Maybe they need to like go somewhere that could be challenging. That maybe the perceptions of the Force are a little different. Maybe they need to be shielded from something. What could it be? What could it be? Where could we go? It's like almost like I have a treasure map open and like X marks the spot.
I was just going to say the same thing.
That's crazy. It's because we're looking at the same map.
Oh, man. The call is coming from inside the planet X.
You're so real for saying that. So real.
Yeah.
You're so real for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Charles also, I saw the clip and he said like our Jedi will go to places they haven't been before, figuratively and literally. And so I was like, Tuck's hair behind ear. I was like, that seems pretty on the nose for what we've been saying for years now on this here podcast. I mean,
we could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think so right now. I'm right until proven otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I will say though, on the topic of this armor, the Jedi Temple Guard mask aesthetic is really interesting because the mask kind of shields their faces.
Yeah.
And we think a lot about like, your eyes deceive you and like emotion, and you show emotion on your face, you show your attachment through those emotions. And so like the idea of the Jedi kind of shielding like their emotions from others, from other people, I find fascinating, or other beings perhaps.
Yeah, it's almost like maybe nobody can sense their fear. Maybe.
Yeah. But I also wonder like their limited vision, like what they're just like those little slits on the helmet, right? And so like the idea of like the Nameless, and like everybody sees the Nameless differently. Every time we see them, they're a different form. They manifest differently into the person's individual fear. So it's like, if you kind of like cut off your sense of sight and you just plug yourself into the Force and you're in tune with the Force, how can you overcome fear based on what you feel versus on what you see? And so I find that idea interesting. I imagine they can see somewhat, but again, like I would imagine the vision's very limited, and I think that's intentional.
Yeah, and maybe that helps them hear the song of the Force better too, like come together within the living and cosmic Force.
Perhaps. They also have shields. They have like these cool Hyrulean type shields. If you're a Zelda player, kind of looks like the Hyrule shield. Also, Aslan Rel's got a cane. Somebody pointed out that at the top of the cane, it's a little purpley.
Purple?
Might be the Echo Stone.
Huh.
Echo Stone, for those who may have not read the comics, it's like the Barnabas Vim tale about Barnabas, and he had the Echo Stone and he like split it in half to hide it from people who could use it maliciously, and they ended up becoming the Rod of Daybreak and Seasons, and that's what controls the Nameless. So I'm wondering, like, did Aslan find Echo Stone or a piece of it, and is he going to use that to control the Nameless? Because you and I had theorized, like, is this going to be a, everybody versus Aslan type situation? And I feel like if he's trying to do something malicious to them, and the Jedi realize they have to save the beings, there's going to be a direct conflict of interests between these two factions.
Because where do we go from Temptation, in that last chapter in Temptation?
Yeah, the situation's getting dire.
But if Aslan is in full like Jedi Temple armor garb, maybe we're using that piece of the Echo Stone on the side of the Jedi against what Marchion is doing. Although it would also be interesting if Aslan were like a third person in this picture, kind of like Lorna D has been to Marchion, kind of like an outside confounding factor to everybody involved.
Yeah. Oh, I miss Lorna D. I cannot wait for Tempest Breaker, by the way.
Speaking of Tempest Breaker and Lorna D, Marcion Rowe and Lorna D doing a little dancey dance.
A dance to the death.
Yeah, in which Marcion is like in some very High Republic Jedi looking jacket cape situation, but with like the fur of Marcion Rowe, and he's shirtless and ripped. And then there's Lorna D as well, doing a little dancey dance. Their faces are very close to each other. I don't know what's up with that, but I'm very fascinated. And I love that piece of art so much. It's so cool. It's so cool.
All the Marcion hoes are winning with this photo for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
No doubt.
I can't wait though. I can't wait. So we're only like what, a little over a month away? A month
Something
and
like
a
that.
month and a week, month and 2 weeks. We
Yeah.
also got a look at Kevin Scott's upcoming Star Wars issue number 2 featuring Lorna D, The High Republic, which is coming out in 2025. So I think it's like a new run of Kevin's comic, because there's one going on right now.
Work, but yeah, we'll figure it out once.
I'm
it
a little
comes out.
behind. I'm a little behind. But aside from the High Republic, or no, actually,
Wait.
Nope,
Don't
nope,
aside
nope.
from the High Republic when we got 2 more High
No.
Republic books to talk about.
I lied.
We've also got a Valiant Vow cover by Justina Ireland. Justina Ireland closing out the middle grade books for the High Republic with Imri and
Woo!
our new fave Tep Tep. And it says they're coming up against lots and lots, and we mean way too many for comfort, of Nile's scav droids. So that should be interesting. And Tep Tep, that's going to be tough for her because they're not beasties that you can talk to.
Ooh, good point.
Because they're machines. But Tep Tep is awesome. So I have no doubt that they're going to figure it out because they're 2 very strong, cool characters.
I'm really glad Justina gets to write more Imri.
Me too.
Very exciting. Because last we saw Imri was Justina and Tessa's book, Defy the
Mhm.
Storm. So I'm glad we get a little bit more Imri before this whole shindig wraps up, because he's pretty cool.
All right, we got to stop talking about the end.
I know.
Even though we got one more end, because we also have Claudia Gray's Into the Light, not Into the Dark anymore. Into the Light, which shows one, Reith Silas, our number one. My number one. I don't know about you. My number one, who I love so much, because he's just the guy who loved being in the library. And he finds himself facing off the Blight on Kashyyyk.
Woo!
I think Claudia's writing it for me. I think she's. I don't want to but like she's doing it for me. You know, like that was for me.
Claudia Gray heard that Sarah loves Kashyyyk and that she
That's right.
loves Reith Silas, and then she went,
That's right.
"Ooh, let's make a Kashyyyk Reith Silas salad." Bam.
That's exactly it. Obviously, that's how it worked. No, I'm really excited that we're going back to Kashyyyk. I read that and I was like, oh my God, was that mentioned in the panel? I don't know. And so I just tweeted, takes deep breath, and then, but I didn't mention Kashyyyk. So in case it was old news, but I was freaking out.
I love the idea of going to Kashyyyk because we know it's a planet that is going to survive the Blight, right?
Right.
Because it's in the prequels. And what are they going to do to stop it? How do they stop it? You know, that the implication is that they do stop it, but how? Is the question. And also just like Burry being an empath and being somebody who we've seen in Temptation of the Force have some pretty direct interaction with the Blight, particularly finding out that the Blight feels homeless. So, and Burry, you know, like Jedi or Wookiees have like a very loyal sense to Kashyyyk as their homeworld. Like they're very like I think Burry is somebody who's probably homesick in his heart, and so is like Chewbacca, like homesick for Kashyyyk, like wanting to be back on Kashyyyk, especially after in the Empire Strikes Back or Empire time period. Kashyyyk becomes a world full of Wookiee slaves and machines and all that other stuff. So I just feel like Kashyyyk being this one place to represent like home, but also a place where the Blight, which is homeless and homesick, coming to like tear apart this very like homey planet. Like I don't know. I'm trying to form words right now. I think you know what I'm putting down,
Yeah,
but
and-
like
and
the implications are cool.
We've also got to save the Woshire trees.
Yeah.
It's really important.
And I wonder if too, like Burry being on Kashyyyk, which I'm assuming Burry is on Kashyyyk here because he doesn't say in the description that he will be, but I'm assuming that Burry being on his home planet makes him more in tune with the force because he sees the force as a forest, as trees, right? If I remember correctly.
I think so.
So maybe him being surrounded by nature and his home world allows that clarity and that peace of mind, despite the impending danger of the blight, to actually connect with the blight beyond what he's been able to do before and figure out how to get rid of it. So, and also some of what Wreath learns as well. I think those two together might be an unstoppable force.
I hope so, because I would cry if either of them didn't quite make it. Anyway, It's called Into the Light, not Into the Dark. It's called Into the Light this time. So we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine.
We're gonna be fine. I do want to ask you though, do you have a favorite YA cover now that we've seen all of the YAs across the High Republic officially? Do you have a favorite YA cover? So to get in our mind, we have Into the Light.
Yeah, I do.
Out of the Shadows, Midnight Horizon, Path of Deceit, Path of Vengeance, Defy the Storm, Tears of the Nameless, and Into the Light.
Path of Deceit.
Path of Deceit.
Path of Deceit for sure.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm really feeling Into the Light, and like it might be recency bias, but like Wreath has become a character amid my recent speed read of Tears that I couldn't put down for a day and a half.
Don't say anything at all. Don't say anything.
No spoilers, but like Wreath has become a favorite of mine, like more so than ever before. And he was already a favorite, but he has now like really eclipsed almost every other character for me in the High Republic. So this might be a favorite for me.
Yeah. I really love Wreath too, but I choose Path of Deceit just because it's so different from the other covers. I really love the starry night sky. I love how we get a little bit of landscape and then the characters all the way towards the back. The mother, Marta Kevmo, may he rest in peace. And yeah, I just think it's like a beautiful cover, and there's a lot of grace in that cover despite the whole premise of those two books being really dark. So yeah.
Honorable mention though, the Path of Vengeance. I also love that, like the Martiro standing at the top of the cave with the Jedi behind her and all the Nameless. Yeah. Actually, that actually might be my favorite, but I would say that and Into the Light are probably like my top two.
The
Tears shortly
really
behind
good
as well.
Yeah. I mean, there hasn't been a single bad cover in any of these books. They've all been really good and really compelling, and I think I've done a good job of capturing the mood of all the books, you know?
Yeah.
So we're big fans over here.
Isn't that weird though to say like we've seen the covers for all of the YA, all the middle grade as well, we've seen all the covers for. Nothing beats Race to Crash Point Tower. I'm gonna make the decision for us.
Thank you for saying that.
That's the best cover.
I agree with you.
I mean, like V18 flying through the air with them riding Lula and Ram on V18. Like that, you can't beat that cover.
No, it's not possible.
Number one.
They're all great.
Yeah,
they're all really good.
Oh gosh, I can't. I'm like not ready to see Trials of the Jedi's cover. I know we didn't get it here, but like
there's a reason they're keeping it back. Like it scares me.
I feel like when I do see it though, it's all gonna hit me like, oh shit, this is actually ending. And so like I'm not quite ready to see it. I'm okay with it having one more little High Republic cover reveal left before it's all done. So lastly though, New York Comic Con related, we did get some new comic announcements. We got a new Lydia King story, Battle of Eriadu stories that are gonna go back to a planet that's in the High Republic Adventures. It's kind of
Eriadu.
Eriadu. What did I say? I don't even know what I said.
I don't know.
Words.
But I just really like saying Eriadu.
Eriadu. That's Tarkin's homeworld, correct?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So that's gonna be cool. And then last but not least, we did get an official title reveal for the Yord and Jecki book. It's called The Acolyte, The Crystal Crown. So very exciting.
And it's written by Tessa. Like that's going to be good. We love Tessa here on the pod.
I know people were very worried after the Acolyte got canceled that that would put the books in jeopardy that got announced, but luckily we're still full steam ahead. We're getting these books. They're coming. So if you are a fan of the Acolyte and you are just as sad about it as we are, we did post an episode on our Patreon if you want to go listen to that. But we are still sad by it and upset about it. But this is a great way to support the show and support the vision of the show and to support the people who helped craft the vision and the world of the Acolyte in the Star Wars time period of the Acolyte. So definitely, if you want to continue with those characters and stay close to them, the books are the best way to do that. So
absolutely.
I will never say no to reading books, or I will never say no to recommending people read Star Wars books, because I far too often than not feel that they are the most consistent winners of Star Wars.
I firmly agree.
Yeah.
I mean, we both do this podcast together, so.
Yeah. Books are great. Speaking of books and where you can buy books, Sarah, we're going to go to your independent bookstore of the week before we jump into Beware the Nameless.
Absolutely.
I think you got one for us.
I do. I always do. Even if it's a little last minute, because sometimes I forget, but I didn't today. This week's independent bookstore of the week is a Bookworks in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They have been around in the Albuquerque area since 1984. So they are an established part of the Albuquerque community. They are known for their high quality events and readings, including local, regional, and of course, nationally known authors. They partner with the public library and a local writing program to offer events that inspire writers. And they host events throughout the community, not just in their store. I think it's really cool that they really focus on being locally owned and really, really connect with their communities. It's really important to them to, work with surrounding schools and classrooms, as well as nonprofits. They have a store online where you can buy all your books, or you can visit them in person in Albuquerque area. So if you are located in Albuquerque, a bookstore you may want to go to. Bookworks at bookworks.com. And by that, I mean BKWRKS.com.
Heck yeah. Bookstores. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Always a great reminder to support your local bookstores, especially as we get close to the holiday season. You're buying books for friends and family. So if you have the means and you're able to buy locally, that's the best way to support your community. So
that's right.
Stick it to the man. And by the man, I mean Amazon. Oh.
Very specifically, yeah.
All right, we're diving into Beware the Nameless. Spoilers ahead, so if you haven't read the book, or if you just want to tag along and kind of hear what all the hubbub is about and hear some of our larger thoughts on the book and the story and some of the characters, stick around. We got a little bit to talk about here. So, Beware the Nameless, Zoraida Córdova. It's her first book since Convergence, which was a phase 2 adult novel from Del Rey. Her first Star Wars book, I should say. But Beware the Nameless.
High Republic, yes.
Zoraida had a really good summation in her newsletter around the time that the book came out. And I'll kind of quote her here, but she says, Beware the Nameless is about a group of kids surviving against a threat much bigger than themselves. There are hard lessons, big emotions, laughs, lots of lightsaber action, new planets. But above all, this book is about friendship. It's about finding people who understand you and are there by your side when things get rough. While I was writing this for the 11-year-old I once was, I think kids and adults alike will find something for them. So when I read that in Zoraida's newsletter, I liked it. I like hearing that. I think it gets to the spirit of like the middle grade genre. And so I wanted to share that here because I thought those were some beautiful words. And that's how this book made me feel. Like I read the book. I loved all the characters in it. I think anytime you and I connect with the youngins of the High Republic, we always come out refreshed and happy. And I feel like this book, like many others before, kind of end with the character looked out at the horizon and a whole new world like was ahead. And as cliche as that might be, I feel like we need that with how jaded we are with the world and how serious things often feel and the weight of things. So it's nice to have a little bit of levity in life, connecting with these stories. And I think also within Star Wars itself, like truly wonderful the mind of a child is, as Yoda says. I think a lot of these characters might be pretty critical in the ending of the High Republic and kind of solving the Nameless problem.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of like whenever a book ends with the character looking up to the stars or realizing that they have a new adventure in front of them. It's kind of I think that's the very best of Star Wars, right? Because The Last Jedi ends that way.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's what Star Wars is. George once said that, Star Wars is for 12-year-olds. And that's the middle grade genre. And so I think that when a middle grade book has a good story, a great author, takes place in a time period that we like, and is ultimately a meaningful story, we walk away with something beyond the egg talk, that we're just a little bit better people for it. We get to enjoy a story like this. So yeah, the last line being the galaxy, it was his and it was waiting. And I closed the book and I'm like, yeah, it feels really nice. And I, enjoyed this book. I thought it was a fun adventure. It had family and it had found family and it had, as everybody's been saying, a story of courage, but without the sort of weight that some of the other High Republic stories have had. Stories also about young people and courage, like A Test of Courage is a difficult story because it deals so heavily with grief, and this story is thinking about courage in a different way. It's thinking about courage in the sense of like stepping outside of your zone and challenging yourself differently, as opposing to having to deal with a tough time. And both of these things are really important. And not really just really important for young people, but really important for adults to be reminded of as well. But I like that this story was, kind of a pushing yourself out of your comfort zone kind of courageous story. I also really enjoyed the Nameless throughout the story. I was like, ooh, what an interesting description of fear. Bookmark it. Ooh. Oh, well, that's how the Nameless sound as performed by the narrator. Bookmark it. Like, so that's what because I listened to the audiobook. That's how I enjoyed the book. Yeah. Some fun stuff in there.
There were a lot of fun, like, bookmark it moments. Speaking back to that final line that you quoted, I feel like that really rhymed with the ending of Race to Crash Point Tower with Ram, because I feel like that was almost a similar, and I don't have the book in front of me, but I would say it's almost pretty close together, of like looking out and the world was his waiting kind of thing. And I think Churo the Hutt, who is the character in this book that I feel is a big focal point, has sort of the same arc that Ram does in Race to Crash Point Tower, where Ram, when we meet Ram, he is in the garage on Valo with his bomb bracks. He likes to fix things. He sees the Force as like pieces, parts of a whole, and how he can move them and put them together. And he sees emotions as tools on the cart. You take some tools off, you put other tools on, and that's how you juggle with emotion. Churo's kind of the same sort of character in the beginning of this book, where he is an entomologist, like a bug scientist. He remembers 1,000 different types of flora and fauna and insects, which I love because we haven't really had a character in Star Wars like that. So I think it's pretty cool, especially when we're talking about creepy crawly big boys, the Nameless, as well as a character like Tep Tep, who connects with animals and connects with wildlife. And so I think the mingling of those two characters is interesting. But Ram and Churo both have a journey where it's like, yeah, like you said, go out of their comfort zone, step outside the garage, step outside Churo's greenhouse, right? Like Churo is just trying to prove himself to his family and show that he can earn the respect of his family, but like also is a little timid and doesn't want to fully be himself. And by the end of this book, he's like, that's actually all I can be as myself, because that's all I have. My family doesn't want me to come home because of what I've done. It's failure in their eyes. But now it's like the inability to go home is actually like a much needed new beginning for Churo. Much like Ram, Valo was attacked, which is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and the city is unlike anything it will ever be from before the attack. But in some ways that opens up new doors for Ram as well, where he can take on a leadership mantle. It kind of renews his purpose to save the people of Valo and to do whatever he can to make sure nobody else loses their home in the same way he did, right? And so I feel like what would be deemed failures, or what would be deemed like bad events for these characters end up being growing moments for them. And I think that was kind of what I connected with between these two. And so I'm excited that Churo got his happy ending, much like Ram, who takes on a bit of a leadership role in this book as well.
Yeah, and let's focus in on Churo a bit, because I just really enjoyed the fact that Churo is a Hutt. Like, we have a bad connotation about the Hutts in Star Wars. The Hutts are not seen favorably. I think you think, oh, Hutt, and you think, oh, big, slimy, terrible person,
gangster,
bad sort of people,
bounty hunter.
Because and Hutt Slayer Leia, like, these are people who are doing bad things to other people, who are involved in the underworld. But with Churo, I think we get to see such a positive connotation of the Hutts and or of him specifically as a Hutt. And I think it also serves as a good lesson to, like, not judge a book by its cover, right? To not make snap judgments because we don't know something about someone by just looking at them. So I think having, like, a visibly, like, non humanoid sort of character as the lead was really refreshing, because most of our characters lately, and forgive me if I'm wrong, most of our protagonists have been, biped humanoid figures throughout the High Republic.
Except Orbelin, who is apparently goo now.
Well, yeah, but, like, Orbelin, he's like a tertiary character. No shade to Orbelin. He's a legend. He's an icon. I love Orbelin. But, like, I'm talking about our protags,
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking of the out of context image
goo,
I saw of Orbelin, where it's just a goo and it's just a lightsaber. I need to catch up on the comics, apparently. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was just thinking of Orbelin goo.
Right. But, like, most of the characters that we have, even if they're a different species, are still humanoid sort of looking creatures. So I'm glad we had a character that doesn't resemble a human at all, because I think that maybe when you read Churo and when you think about his story and his anxieties and his fear of really pushing himself outside his comfort zone and his then ability to do it even when he messes up, and he puts it on an open comm as opposed to a private channel, and then it brings everybody to Halagosul. He's still is really courageous to do the right thing. And everybody is like, that was ultimately kind of the right thing to do. I think everybody can see them, or a part of themselves that feels like an outsider, right? A part of themselves that feels different from the people around them, from their peers or your loved ones. Whether that be something you're imagining, something that you feel from the people around you, like, a visual difference. Like, you can see that in Churo when you read him as a character. And so I found that to be really nice too. I mean, yeah.
No, those are all great points, and especially, like, the reputation of the Hutts within the High Republic, because they've been at odds with Avar Kriss infamously in the Cavan Scott phase 1 run of the High Republic, when they faced off against the Drengir and the Hutts and everything. So I love that Churo is sort of a classic case of, yes, my family in the eyes of the Jedi are very bad. They're enemies, right? But he doesn't want to, like, join the family business, even though he's gotta not be himself in order to be in the family. And I feel like we see that in many different types of stories, and many of us probably feel that in our own life, where it's like, hey, I own the car shop. You have to own the car shop. It's like, oh, but I want to be a doctor, or, like, want to do this, And so that's also not personally relatable to me. But, like, I could see how Churo's story in that sense is relatable, of, like, your family wanting to push you into something that you're not meant for, right? Like, Churo is all about his bugs and his plants, and that's what he enjoys the most. He's not about running a gangster Hutt cartel and sending people on missions to take weapons that they can then use against their nemesis, right? Like, the whole point of this book, or the launching point of this book, is Churo going on a mission to, like, bond with his sister, or, like, maybe earn her respect, and he ends up carrying around a nameless egg for the entire book, not knowing what it is or what it would be used for, but kind of getting the sense that nothing really about this feels right. And I feel like if this does fall into the wrong hands, it could be disastrous. And like, I don't necessarily, like, I'm not the type of Hutt and the type of person who wants that blood on my hands. Like, that's not what I want. That's not me. Oddly enough as well, by the way, that the crate where he gets the nameless egg out of, destination Tanu.
Yeah.
So
why are we sending this nameless to our baby younglings?
Our baby young Jedi Adventure younglings, please protect them.
Why would we do that to Kai and to Nubs and to all of our friends on Tanu?
If it weren't for Churo the Hutt, Young Jedi Adventures would have been the second High Republic show to get canceled by Disney. Let's just oof, man. Thank you, Churo. Thank you for your service for not canceling another one of our beloved High Republic shows that we have. Salute to Churo. But in all seriousness, terrifying moment to think like that leveler egg was this close to like going to Tanu and hurting Nubs. Could you imagine the Lucasfilm gates, pitchforks everywhere.
Right. Well, thankfully it didn't happen. We didn't have to break our pitchforks out of the basement, you know?
Yeah.
So we live to see another day peacefully for now. But yeah, should we talk a bit about the Nameless? Do we have anything more to say specifically about kind of Churo or any of the kids? We should mention, I got one. We should mention the Greylarks are back and they're still high up.
Yes. Yeah. Senator Rena Greylark and her daughter Zenny Greylark, who joins our unit of kids on this adventure, searching for her sister, who I'm blanking on the name of at the moment. I know it starts with an L. Lexi. There we go. Yes. Lexi Greylark. So I love the allusion to the old Greylark senator, which, you know, we know is Keong Greylark from phase 2 and infamously Axel Greylark, Chaos Prince. So, you know, of course, Axel being a character Zoraida introduced to us and the Greylark family. I love that she got to throw a Greylark in a phase 3 middle grade novel as well. So that was kind of a cool connection for her, I'm sure. I'm sure she was really excited about that one.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's nice to know that the Greylark line didn't become disgraced with Axel's choices. So
I wonder how long the Greylark line within the Senate continues going. Like, do the Greylarks join the rebellion? Do they stand up against the Empire? Do they join the delegation of 2000? You know?
Ooh.
Who knows?
You're asking the real questions, but now I'm also thinking, there's a meme. It's Yunjin from Les Seraphim, and she goes, nepotism. and how have the Greylarks been able to survive in politics this long? And my thought is nepotism.
It was just Axel's good looks, you know.
Well, it's a pretty privilege.
Yeah,
it does get you places.
But also Keong Greylark, Mom of the Year. Let's be real.
She's pretty great.
Yeah,
she's pretty great. Yeah,
I agree. But you know, shout out Greylarks. Love them being back.
Shout out Greylarks. Wanted to make sure we mentioned that. We would be silly if we didn't.
It's a good shout out.
Thank you.
But yeah, you're thinking of hopping over to the Nameless. We're talking about Churo and the egg. So I think, you know, in the spirit of egg talk.
I was doing a dun dun dun, and then we can also do like a pew, 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 pew.
I love egg talk. I have to say, I think egg talk is just the episodes now. It's just completely eclipsed everything.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to anybody who comes to our conversations hoping for actual like full book reviews these days, because I think we're so zoned in on egg talk that like when we read now, we're like looking specifically for the egg talk things. Whereas like when we started the High Republic, we were making like 20-page Google Docs with like the name of every single character that's ever graced the pages, because we needed to know what happened to everybody all the time in order to figure it out and kind of know what we're going to talk about. But now it's like hey, Brad, you want to talk egg talk? And you're like, yeah, let's talk egg talk. All right, sounds good.
So for new listeners, Egg Talk, it's our segment. And again, it's basically everything at this point. Egg Talk originated with the Claudia Gray Master and Apprentice prophecy about eggs, and includes a sentence that says sins done to the Nameless. And so ever since we sort of connected the dots to be like, oh wait, the Nameless, that's the beings in the High Republic. We've kind of crafted our whole theory and connections about fear and Endgame and Planet X and Nameless and all the other stuff together under the roof of Egg Talk. So that's
right.
That's why we're here. I love Egg Talk. Makes me so happy. We should get the Nameless prophecy, by the way, tattooed on our backs at Celebration. What do you think?
On our backs specifically?
You know how like some Americans, like real diehard American people, they'll get the Constitution tattooed on their back. You know, that's a totally normal thing to do. We should do that, but it's the Egg Talk prophecy at Star Wars Celebration.
Only through the sacrifice of many Jedi can we cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. Past is not past, but it sleeps in an egg. Once the egg cracks, it will threaten the galaxy entire.
Something about chosen one doesn't matter.
But I think I goofed it up a little bit. That's why I ohmed.
The Anakin erasure every time we talk about Egg Talk, because we're just like, don't worry about the Nameless or the chosen one thing.
Later.
It's later.
Like later. It's like later. It's like not. It's not. Unless the chosen one is Elzar Mann, but like I
Man,
he's
they're
got
gonna
a
feel like
dad.
idiots in the prequels if they did miss that one.
I think Elzar Mann's got a dad though, so that takes him out of the running. It's kind of like point number one: chosen one, born of no father. Right?
True.
Right. Anyway,
but yeah, the Nameless in this book. So I think a big part of this. So they're on the planet Palagosol, and Niv Drendow gives Hayes Delic, who is a new Nile character who's trying to make a name for herself. Niv wants her to go get the two Nameless on Palagosol. And you know, Hayes wants to earn her names. No one else wants to take up the mission because something wrong with these creatures. They're a little too scary for most people. So she goes and tries to retrieve them. That's kind of when both of these parties kind of clash. But the Nameless being on Palagosol is interesting because at one point they're described, and there's one Nameless who it says jagged scars crisscross its body. Someone had sewn its skin in brutal pieces along its hunched shoulder, stitching it with metal studs and squares that looked like armored plates. And the second one, though, is more of described as blue and purple shadows. So kind of like more of a traditional Nameless as we've seen in maybe some of the phase 2 artwork. Even the I comic where Marchion goes to Planet X, most of the Nameless there are purple and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really interesting to see sort of the two distinct Nameless beings, like one being closer to its natural form, one that is really massacred in a sense in terms of its body, like body horror almost with the modifications.
Very Baron Boulin / Niv Drendow-ified in the worst way possible, unfortunately.
And I think it really just hits home the point of not only were these beings taken from their home against their will, and they're starved to the point of needing to feed on Jedi and the Force in order to survive. It's not their choice that they have to do this, but also just the malformity of them.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of makes it feel even worse. Like makes the whole situation feel even more dire in terms of like, we need to get these guys back home somehow.
Yeah.
Because nothing's right about this.
No. And I think, our characters recognize it. And I think Tep Tep is one character that recognizes that there's something amiss here and there's something wrong in all of this. And so Tep Tep has some great moments with the Nameless at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I was kicking and screaming.
Also throughout the book. Yeah, but no, at the end. And, she loves to chat with the beasties. She loves to understand them better. And she has a certain amount of trouble with them in a way that she wishes she didn't, because she wants to understand them. And I was like, oh, Tep Tep, a real one. My girl. Love you.
She's awesome. Yeah, this
Yeah.
scene at the end of the book, I love the moment where they're like, "Where's Tep Tep?" and they look on the camera and she's just already entered the containment chamber with the Nameless, which by this point, you know, we had the Nameless egg that Churo was carrying around. It hatches, a little baby Nameless comes out and and kills Hayes, who's trying to master her escape plan.
Which is probably good because her jaw unhinges weirdly. And every time Zoraida would write like Hayes unhinges her jaw, I was like, this is for 8-year-olds and I'm terrified. I'm so scared right now. The thought of unhinging her jaw. Also, I'm just a girl with jaw problems. So like the thought of unhinging my own jaw is like a scary dream.
Yeah, Hayes is from the planet of Helicoprion, which is like near where the Carcharodons live. And the Carcharodons are like sharks. So
vibes.
I kind of thought of her as like a shark,
kind
like
of sharky
character. Yeah. But this ending scene, it says, Tep Tep was not a stranger to creatures others found ugly, unappealing monsters. In her heart, she didn't think any creatures were evil, no matter how strange or scary they looked. And it says she did not try to connect with the Force. She tried to connect with them. Interesting distinction. Why do you think Tep Tep would not want to connect with the Force, but actually connect with the living beings in front of her? Like, what is the importance of that distinction of like, this is not about what the Force thinks or what the Force tells me. It's about what these beings in front of me are feeling.
Right. Let's first take a step back. You know, she was not a stranger to creatures often found ugly, unappealing monsters. She didn't think any creatures were evil. Tep Tep on that Nameless Baby Uru agenda. We have to stand, we have to support, firstly. Secondly, because they are not natural in this vision of the Force. This is not their natural Force state. They are creatures of the Force, but they are not of this Force. Because they are of the Force of Planet X.
Oh.
So connecting with the Force would be connecting with one, the fear, and connecting in a way that could, I think, harm her, but also connecting with them or attempting to connect with them instead of attempting to connect with the Force bypasses the manipulation that they and the control that they are being subjected to in this Force with the Rod of Seasons and the Rod of Daybreak, aka the Rod of Power.
So are you saying that it does no good to connect to the Force to understand them because the Force is sickened? One. So the Force in this case is almost like an unreliable narrator in a way, right? Because you're saying because the Nameless are out of their natural environment, the Force doesn't even recognize what it is or what it is, and that's what the blight. That's why the blight happens, is because the Force is like, we don't know. This is like an unrecognized body in our universe that we have no explanation for, and the Force just sickens. So like, why would you tune into it? Is that kind of what you're?
Well, yeah.
You're
when
getting
the
at?
Force itself sickens, that's in the prophecy, is it not? Yeah. That is what I'm getting to. You can't rely on the Force when the Force is integral to the manipulation that is harming both the Nameless and the Jedi. And I'm not saying that the Force is bad. It's just being used negatively. And I'm not saying the Nameless are bad, because they're not. And they are Force beings. Yeah.
And the Force will still play a role, but I think maybe to rely entirely on it, which kind of, it's an interesting line of thought, because you go back to the Path of the Open Hand, like their whole thing was like, don't use the Force. Like the Force is not for us to be used. And I think there's something going on here with the Nameless in the way that Tep Tep is just able to walk in and they're kind of just staring at her, and she's staring back at them, and she sees they're not mindless beings. There's some thought behind those intelligent eyes.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder if the Nameless can read intention. You know, like they recognize Tep Tep is not here abusing the Force or using the Force in a malicious way, or doesn't have the intent of attacking these beings. Like she has a genuine care for them. She wants to connect to them. She likes the beasties no matter how scary they are. And so why don't they attack her? think it's just because they sense she has a good heart.
I mean, yeah. And also, I mean, when we talk about who the Jedi, or pardon me, who the Nameless prey on, it's the Jedi, but it was also in this case Hayes. Interesting.
Who's not a Force user, very specifically. At least that we know. But the Force is in everything.
The Force is in everything.
Oh,
it's just the Jedi
difficult.
who are trained how to use it and rely on it on a daily basis.
Right.
For those people that are not using it and relying on it a daily basis, they're not interacting with it because it binds us, it surrounds us, yada, yada, yada. Thank you. Past. Thank you. Everything that came before this, you know? But I think it preys, or the Nameless prey on the Jedi because they live within the Force. The Force is integral to their daily existence in a way that it isn't for everyday folks. Now, and it's because it's easier to find that fear in someone who is already connected to the Force through the telephone connection. You know, if you have the line open, it's easier to talk to somebody than if you've hung up on them. Now, the Hayes is an interesting case here. And I don't really have an answer for that one. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
I mean, my only thoughts as I'm thinking about it is your point that the Nameless are eating the Force from the Jedi because they're like the strongest source of, like, let's just say they're the strongest source of the nutrients, right? Because they're so enriched with the Force because of their proximity to it. When the Guardian protocols go into effect, basically all Jedi are told not to leave Coruscant. They're told not to go, don't go face your fears. Stay here. You're not to leave alone without other Jedi with you. You cannot leave with the temple without a partner. And so now you don't have as many Jedi around the galaxy. So like, what are the Nameless to do if that's their only food source? Well, they got to turn to everything else. If the Force is in everything, including people who, you know, don't tune into it to the point where they can lift rocks, it's like you kind of feed on people, but it's not the best source of the nutrients. You're getting like half a meal, maybe like a quarter of a meal.
Right. 1/4 portion, if you will. And yeah, I know. I'm like bringing it around. I'm like, I know. The deep cut, aka the first 10 minutes of The Force Awakens, one of the most top grossing movies of all time. But we've already crossed a particular line or a particular threshold when the blight came into play, right? Like this is what I'm thinking about now. Even if the blight exists separate from the Nameless, and the Nameless don't want anything to do with the blight, it's still an important line that's been crossed because the blight indiscriminately affects all living things, the plants and non-organic things. It affects everything, right? The plants, the people, the houses, the crops, the animals, the ground, it's everything. So we've already established that you can feed, I guess, on any amount of the Force. So yeah, and then when all your food is depleted, aka return to Coruscant, not allowed out of the house, then you got to start turning to whatever you can find, I guess.
Yeah. The blight's an interesting thing when you think about it too, because like it doesn't play a large part in this book. However, there is a part where Jedi Knight Ra-Lin has blight on her body, even though they hadn't seen Nameless in many days since they got trapped in the bunker with Lexi Greylark. So like the question is, where did that come from? They hadn't interacted with the Nameless, or how did that happen? Like, why is it just affecting not only are the Nameless feeding on non-Force sensitives, not only is the blight affecting everything in the galaxy, but it's also affecting people who aren't even like in direct contact with the blight, potentially. You know, the Force is all around us. It's the implication that like the Force isn't everything, I think, is an important idea, especially as like you and I tried to look at Charles Soule's Instagram post a couple months ago. And the idea that like the Force is everything and everything is the Force. Everything we've ever known is the Force. So it's kind of like an interesting idea to explore, like, why is the blight encroaching on certain things? Why are the Nameless going beyond their main food source?
I think it's also really interesting with Rollin specifically is that, may she rest in peace, but goes and gets husked, is injured in the bunker with a bit of the blight. That's not good. But then sacrifices herself, goes and gets husked. But then there's like some blight on the ground. So the blight is a really serious situation. It was a good thing we cut off Care's hand, because if we didn't, he would have brought the blight everywhere. It wouldn't have just hurt him, but it would have hurt wherever he died. And I think that's an important piece of the puzzle, to just, set off to the side and recognize you have an edge piece, not know where it goes yet. Right, right when you start, and so the fact that the blight can spread in this way, I think, is important to see. I think we got a little bit of that in Temptation of the Forest, but this is like another very eerie, unsettling reminder that the stakes are really, really high. And I hope that Palagosal will be okay in the aftermath of this attack from the Nameless in the Nile.
I also get the sense that the Jedi are keeping the blight close to the vest, because I mean,
they kept the Nameless close to the vest for a hot ass minute
for like 150 years. But I also I get the sense that these kids didn't know what the blight was, like when it, like there just seems to be like a lot of lack of information for people who probably need to know, especially those going out into the field who might encounter this. And I might be wrong, and maybe like Ram knows about it, or some of the other kids, or maybe because these kids were stowaways, they weren't prepared with that information like Ram would have been. But I find it interesting to see like the reactions to this husking. Like Master Caro dies to save the kids, and like that's a horrible moment for them to go through, because many of those kids have already seen that happen to folks from before.
Right.
On Valo especially. So yeah, the blight situation's not great. I'm hopeful that, a character like Tep Tep, who has the moment with the Nameless and tries to get through to them before she's kind of whisked away. However, she does get to ask one question to them in her mind, which is, where did you come from?
What an important question to ask. Tep Tep, you're so on the nose with this,
so right.
girly. Like,
Go off.
I think we should invite her to an episode of Friends of the Force. I recognize that she's a fictional character, but I just think she would have some good insights.
But like the fact that she is asking that question, like that's the first question she asks when connecting, I think says a lot about her, and is probably the first question we should be asking that nobody else is asking. And so like, I think Tep Tep is the key to all of this, in the sense that like she is the only one so far that we've seen ask the right type of questions. Now I will say the maybe only other character who has gotten close to this type of moment is Emmerich Kaftor.
Exactly. Yeah.
I compare this moment in this book to Trail of Shadows #5, where Emmerich is like, I can reach out to them, and they have the moment where they look each other in the eyes, and then all hell breaks loose. But like,
right,
this is Tep Tep's Starlight Beacon Emmerich Kaftor moment with the Nameless. Like they gotta call each other, text each other with their little beepers, and be like, yo,
that's right,
we're on the same page.
Had the same moment. Funky. Weird. But also it says pinpricks of pain shot through her mind like the fading stars of hyperspace. It's giving far away. It's giving, ooh, what a question to ask. That's causing a reaction. It's giving,
Right. Like, did she experience them trying to transmit something to her? Like tell her something? And that was the pinpricks of pain.
It's so Vernestra Rowe of them.
Yeah.
It's so Mari Santega.
It's fascinating. This whole thing is fascinating.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
It's all coming together.
I also found it quite interesting when like the freezing slush, comes into the room, and they try to get them into the escape pods, but the larger the larger Nameless beings are protecting the little baby one that just hatched. I thought that was very important, because it's showing that
community.
Yeah, a sense of community, like a maternal and paternal instinct to like protect the little one, protect the baby. But what I loved about this moment is that it showed, no matter how scary or how malicious these beings might appear on the outside, like they still have that instinct. They still have that instinct to care and protect and nurture in this moment when they're under threat. I think that's important.
And I think I think it's especially important because we've often seen, like, for instance, the Leveler as a solo creature. We see them as solo creatures who are being manipulated in this very sinister way, and we've never seen really their true nature. And I think that seeing them protect a baby is showing their true nature in a way that is refreshing. I mean, we knew that. We've been to Planet X personally, and they were just having families, living life, not bothering anyone. Then we had to take some eggs, didn't we? Take one egg. Take all the eggs. Cause some problems.
Mm-hmm. But also their true nature, no matter what's happened to them, right? You have one being who is more of a natural form, blue-purple leveler, and then the other one who's been so experimented on. But even despite all of that pain and suffering and torture that it's had to go through, it's still... It hasn't changed who it is on the inside. It still wants to protect this little baby. It's like no matter what you do to these things, like they're going to be true to themselves, which is to protect. That's all this is. They're just not in the natural environment that they're meant to be in, and they're trying to survive, and they're trying to protect the little ones at the same time. You know, so I think this. I don't want to say like humanize, but like personify them a little bit in a way of like they have needs, they have desires, they have survival instincts, they care, they nurture. There are leveler moms. There are leveler dads. There are leveler families like on Planet X right now. Or potentially they're all gone because they've all been taken. Like who knows how many are left if they're an extinct species, right? So like maybe the instinct to protect this little one is like, it could be, because we know from the last middle grade book that one of the eggs was like the last one that was taken in captivity from Planet X, right? So it just begs the question of like how many are left? Like could we be narrowing in on like a very slim population of Nameless at this point, to the point of extinction, right? Which is kind of a scary thought.
Yeah.
What do you make of the Jedi though? Like this whole book ends with them capturing Nameless in an RDC vessel, and so now we have some Nameless.
Not just any RDC vessel, the Innovator, to be so specific.
Yeah. Actually, great point.
Which we brought out of the ocean.
Yeah.
Where it once fell during one High Republic fair on Bala. A lot's happening here. Also, the Innovator, the name and its meaning do not escape me when it comes to the Nameless being captured on the RDC Innovator. What do we do on the Innovator? We innovate. Yes, I know it was initially like a medical frigate. But also medical means healing. Walk with me. There are not, a lot of containment, detention sort of rooms on here. There's probably not a ton of blasters or whatever. We're focused on healing, fixing, innovation. These are all positively connotated words. These are all strong, positive emotions and things here. We're not capturing the Nameless on the Innovator to kill him. That's all I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, you don't
Maybe
go
I'm
through
too
all
in my egg talk, but like we're not going to go through this and then murder them. We're going to go through this and we're going to heal them. We're going to fix the problem. We're going to bind the wound.
You would hope, right? But like my first question is who, if the Force is everything, who do we throw? Who do we throw into the lion's den to fix them? Like who's the surgeon that does that? Who's the person to go in there and connect with these beings? If the whole point was to bring them here to study them, who does that? Who studies them? You can't be a Jedi, right? Because the Jedi would just be dusted, or like immediately they would just succumb to their fear. Like who do we throw in the lion's den? That's my next question.
Tep Tep's a Jedi.
Well, that's my thinking. Because if Ram saw like her just walk in there and she made it out, like is he maybe willing to give her a second shot at doing it? She didn't really get much of a chance to, except for asking one question, which was the right question.
I don't think that maybe all the Jedi are equally as vulnerable. I think they've been made to fear.
Right.
Because of what they've heard or what they've seen. But that doesn't mean that they have to fear.
And that's the whole question, right? Is like, what do the Jedi fear?
What do the Jedi fear? The oh gosh, what's that Luke line in Rise of Skywalker?
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Mm-hmm.
Who's going to confront the fear? I've got a list. Unfurls scroll of everybody who's living.
Actually brings up a great quote from page 27, which when Ram is selected to lead this mission, which by the way is very exciting for Ram. He's not very present in this book because he's kind of off and about when the kids go to follow this distress call. But it says here, he felt a mix of fear and excitement that came with every mission and challenge, but it was a Jedi's destiny to face their fear. Rounding up Nameless and rescuing hostages was the worthiest cause he could think of. There it is right there. That was actually the first time that we've seen that kind of verbiage of it was a Jedi's destiny to face their fear. First time we've really heard that since Luke said it in The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. Said it in that way. You know, we've said it, but to see it on the page and for Ram to acknowledge that that's the true destiny of a Jedi, you know, getting back to that fundamental question of like, what do the Jedi fear? What does it mean to fear? Page 122, Kildo and Jamil are having a conversation, which Jamil is a new character. He's a youngling who wants to become a Padawan, but by the end he's like, you know, I'm not quite ready yet. I'm gonna take my time. Which I
loved that. He said, I'm running my own race. Thank you so much for asking though. Really thoughtful.
Right. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Jamil. Like the little M dash, Jamil quote. Jamil, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. For all you Office people, you get it. But Kildo tells Jamil, I know you're scared. Scared is good. Fear is like a wall. You've got to jump to get to the other side. I don't think anyone wants to be scared. Unless, of course, it's when reading an excellent holo book about the Scarlet Skull Assassin Squad.
Vibes. That's so real. He's so real for saying that.
Yeah. But to think of fear of a wall, like a wall, and to ask the question of who is going to go into the lion's den. It's like the question of like, which Jedi is mentally and emotionally prepared and in tune with themselves to be willing to jump that wall, go over and connect with fear and to work through it and to look at these beings in front of you who need your help, who need your light for life, and to help them. Who's going to be? Who is going to do it?
Are we going to find out?
I feel like we're going to get that scene in Trials of the Jedi, like, because I feel like Trials of the Jedi is going to kick off with like, we got the beasties, they're here. Whoa. What's the next step?
And if I said, it's not one, but it's like maybe how many characters were in those photos in their armor? How many of them? 6?
6.
5?
Yeah.
6?
6.
Elzar,
Yeah.
Avar, Aslan, Briaga, Bell.
Yeah, 5. Wait, Aslan? Yeah, 5.
What if they all go into together? I have a thought. I'm thinking things because each of them, I'm putting together a band. I'm assembling a crew, if you will.
Oh, it's just another deep cut from a previous Star Wars movie. Wow.
I know.
You pulled out the Uncard plot and the Tobias Beckett card tonight.
Right.
Props to you.
And Solo did not make nearly the same amount of money that the Force so it's like really a deep cut. I'm kidding. But I'm putting together a crew, and on my crew, I want people who have different strengths, different reasons that they would be on the crew, because I don't want everybody to be able to conduct the Song of the Forest perhaps, because some people need to read the music, some people need to play the instruments. We can't all conduct the Song of the Forest, right? We need an empath on our team, right? We need somebody to translate for the empath, who's also just an all-around good dude who has seen the horrors of the Nameless and still believes in hope. That's Belle, in case you had any questions about that. Then we've got Aslan Rel. He's got to be there because he knows more than a lot of other people. He's still a little scary, but he's important. And he's got to be on the team, but he's got to have everybody else to round him out. We don't want to put him in the room with the Nameless. That's a bad idea. Oh, that's a really bad idea. If we just
he's that one uncle you have to invite to the wedding. You're like, God damn it.
Like he's gonna say, if we do the say something now or forever hold your peace, he's gonna be the one to say it. So we're gonna skip that line, but we're still gonna invite him to the wedding. And then we of course have our lovebirds, Avar and Elzar, and they're really important because Avar conducts the Song of the Force, right?
Mm-hmm.
Elzar has gone through so many trials and tribulations that he understands both the light and the dark in a way that I don't think anybody else in that room does. And I certainly don't think that Aslan does in the same way. He doesn't. Aslan doesn't walk away with the same level of empathy and concern for the light and the dark that Elzar has. But if you put all those people in a room together in front of some Nameless, we have a round table. Everybody's seated at the table, and maybe we plate a delicious meal in front of them of food and not force. The force is not food. Food, force is our friend.
Force is friends, not food.
Anyway, I'm trying out here. Then maybe we get somewhere. Maybe we get somewhere. I'm just throwing things out here. I'm just like, it's one of those puzzles, those brain games that's like 9 pieces and there's only a single way that they can be arranged in order to fit it all in that square. It's like that. And maybe I don't have it all right, but I have all the pieces. I've got like 7 of the pieces in the 9 square, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of close.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question to ask because, like, why those specific characters? Why are those the ones suiting up, right? Like, it's giving like Endgame, like where all the Avengers, like the 5 that were left, were like, we are gonna suit up.
No, I've never actually heard of that. I've never heard of Avengers. Do you mean there's like a team that comes together and they like?
Yeah, I think so.
They like save New York City. That's what you're
something like that.
Huh.
It's giving like Jedi Avengers though. It's like these are our tried and true and tested. We think of the 4: Burry, Bell, Avar, and Elzar, plus the Loki
card
of the situation.
Yeah, actually.
One might say, like, Aslan's kind of like a Loki character where you don't know, one minute he might be on your side, one minute he might be turning on you and, running away with the Tesseract. And so it's going to make for a really interesting dynamic in Trials of the Jedi, which now that I'm thinking about it, Burry probably doesn't go to Kashyyyk with Wreath. I know this is not on the topic of Beware, but going back to the original question of like who can ask some of those questions, and I think Tep Tep, being somebody who asked the question, was an important first step to maybe showing the Nameless like one more time, like, hey, there are some among us who do want to understand,
right?
And are willing to help, and so like, can you give us a shot to help you? It's like when you pull the needle out of a lion's paw, right? We're throwing these Jedi into the lion's den. It's like, can you pull the needle out of the little lion's paw? But also, it might maul you to death and kill you.
Right.
But also, if you get it out of its paw, you'll be its best friend forever. So good luck.
Yeah.
Who's going to do that?
So many options. Many options.
But Tep Tep gave me hope in this book. And that's the roundabout way of kind of where we end up here is like Tep Tep gave me a lot of hope and a lot of faith in the Jedi that there are some amongst them who are thinking about this the right way.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tep Tep is a really important character in the whole story of the High Republic, even though we've only seen her in the middle grade novels.
Totally. But yeah, we've talked about quite a bit with the Nameless, Tep Tep, Churo. Is there anything else that you want to cover before we, I guess, start to wrap it up? We're getting kind of close here.
Aren't they in a room with Elzar Mann at one point early on in this book?
Yes. Yeah. They're I think it's early in the book where they're talking with like Lord Salk and they're being assigned their mission to go get some Nameless. And Yoda, I think Yoda's there, and Elzar and Avar are all there. And Lord Salk's being kind of a jerk about like, oh, you're sending kids on this mission, and everybody's like, dude, screw you. Kids have to fix everything.
Right. Okay. It's page 22. Ram's training. Okay. It took all of Ram's training and strength not to gasp like a Star Trek kid. While the others smiled softly, Master Man found so deeply, even his beard couldn't hide it. But Ram didn't sense anger. It was more like thoughtful frowning, the expression of someone who carried innocent lives on his shoulders. I clocked that right away. I was like, even if we get one line of Elzar Mann in this book, I see you.
He's been showing up.
He's been
like
showing
every
up,
book.
He's been showing up because he's important, but he kind of like he had the weight of innocent lives on his shoulders. He just feels the responsibility of the whole galaxy. And I think that's why he'll take on the challenge to save the whole galaxy, because he truly feels that responsibility.
Yeah.
Even if it will ruin him. Sad.
Totally. I mean, as Ram says in this book, and it's one of my favorite quotes, he knew there was no rest for the most wizard.
Ugh, real.
Too real.
Real.
I love you, Ram.
Ram.
I hope we get a
what
little bit
legend.
more Ram. It's kind of scary to think that we might, if Ram's not a central character in any of the upcoming novels, like this might have been his kind of last hurrah. But hopefully not. Hopefully he's in Justina's book quite a bit with like Emery and Tep Tep. And I just hope, like, I think that's like my only worry with the High Republic this late in the game is like who amongst these characters like might it be the last time we ever see them, right? Like we hear a lot about Emmerich Kaftor, but we haven't quite seen him. Although granted, I haven't caught up on the comics yet, so he might be in there somewhere. But like I just get a little worried, like could this be any of the last time we see these characters in a big spotlight? Might this be the last time we see Kildo or like
stop talking about the end like that, please.
I know, but like I just want to like it makes me think like I just want to like take this moment to like shout out Ram for being like so cool and like taking on this mission, like thinking of the kid we met in Race to Crash Point Tower, and now the kid who is like going out there and like leading a mission, and he's like, time to go rescue my kids, and like that's pretty cool. Like, oh, I'm getting a little emotional talking about it. You definitely are. I am too. You're making me emotional. You gotta stop it. You gotta stop it right now. You gotta stop it right now. I feel
like, I don't know, we've lived with these characters for so long and we've watched so many of them, especially our young ones. I'm sorry, I am crying. Grow up over these stories, and I feel like a proud mom, and I feel like all of these characters, especially the kids, have taught me something every time we read one of these stories, whether it's a new character or a character that we've followed for years. And I can't think about like it being the last time that we see Ram in a book, because like I don't know, I may not think about Ram every day, but like the messages that I get from Ram, like I don't know, part for the part, whole for the whole, and each role for the part it plays is like really, really important to me. And it's a book for 8-year-olds, and I'm like crying about it. And it there's such value in these stories, and there's such value in following these characters. And I know these books, the middle grade especially, and like our adventures comics, don't have the same central plot, central big picture plot relevance than of course the adult books would, which kind of drive the whole initiative. But these stories are so important too. And I no, it actually like pains me to think that this is like the last time we might see some of these characters, even if in 6 months from now. It's hard to think. It's hard to think that we have to say goodbye to any of them. I don't know. I'm sorry to like really be emotional on the pod. I didn't really expect
no, but you're so right.
And
like that's why
the Nameless pod, but like here we are.
No, but I think it's important to think about, because again, it's like you don't know. Like we don't know what role these characters could play. We only have one wave left. I mean, I can tell you Ram doesn't show up in Tears of the Nameless, right? So that leaves 3 books. And just thinking as you and I go on this journey for, at this point, 4 more books, and as reader and listener, as you come along with us, it's like let's just take the time to shout out some of our favorites while we can, because they might not play as prominent of a role to like get that shout out later on. So we're gonna live in the moment and take the Ram approach. We see the part for the part and the whole for the whole, and every role it needs to play. And every youngin in this book had a role, had some sort of important role, and just kind of the idea of like we're stronger together. Like everybody in the Jedi Order in the galaxy is stronger together. And I think that going back to Zoraida's newsletter and how we kind of opened this discussion was, this is a book about friendship, and it's about finding people who understand you and are there by your side when things get rough. And that's what this book is all about. Everybody was there for each other, no matter what biases they had coming in about one another. No matter what kind of guilt or weight of guilt that they carried, they all made it through on the other side, and they were better for it. And and that's pretty cool. So I want to take a moment to appreciate that, and every character who played a role in this book. So, we had Tep Tep, Kildo, Jamil, Zenny, Master Adili Caro, R.I.P., Welga, Ram, Lysa Knox was even in here. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Lissa's back. Lexi.
Yeah.
Robin.
Hopefully we're not missing anybody else, but I mean, Churo, obviously Churo, but Churo's like on a S tier pedestal in this book.
I just love the High Republic so much.
It's so good. I would be like severely more depressed if it weren't for Reign of the Empire. So thank you. Thank you, Alexander Freed and Rebecca Brown Horson and Fran Wild. Appreciate it.
For keeping us going after the High Republic. Because we know the High Republic's ending. We can see the horizon, like know it's we're headed towards it. But knowing that we have something after that to look forward to still is nice. But ooh, man, the end hurts. The end hurts because we've invested just so much of our lives into this. And all these characters are so important and are really some of the best that Star Wars has to offer. So I'm so grateful for everybody behind the High Republic to help that help makes it happen so that we can enjoy them.
Yeah, definitely. This is the last time I build my entire personality around an era of Star Wars. I can't do it anymore. I can't.
Well, unless you're an original trilogy fan, like that shit's not going anywhere. You can.
Facts.
If you wanted to center your life around the original trilogy for the rest of your life, you'll probably not only have the original movies and TV shows and everything that's come after, but you'll probably continue to get stuff. Books, comics.
Yay! Another Darth Vader action figure.
That's right. Yeah. It's endless, but yeah. The High Republic is so special. It's so special.
But hey, we got 4 more book pods to do from like now until April and May. So we got some time. And then we get Acolyte tie-in book. Oh, we're so back. Like we are not going anywhere. We're so back.
I know we're not going anywhere. It's just weird. It's weird to know that like Charles Soule has written the words and that they're done.
It is very weird.
We assume that they're done at this point.
No. It's definitely turning a page in our life.
Yeah.
And in many other people's life. Like it's a community of people who love these books. Like we're all connected by them, and we've met people, we've made new friends. It's incredible what it's done. I would not be the Star Wars fan I am today without the High Republic, but we're going to save the sappiness for like later because like we got 4 more of these to do, but this is kind of like our halftime right here. We're going to do a little cry out moment.
Yeah.
And then like now we're back in.
We're like we got 4 more books. How many books have we done in phase 3 already?
We've done 3.
5?
This will be our 4th, right? Because we had a middle grade, a YA, adult, or no, Eye of Darkness. 5? Oh my God.
Eye of Darkness. Oh, we also have the Cavan audio to do too. Maybe you were including that in your 4. No, you weren't. Were you? No, you weren't. 5.
This is our 5th. This is our 5th episode, but we do have 5 more with Tempest Breaker. You're right.
We're halfway through the end.
Okay,
so
cool. Yeah, we can add another on there just for.
So we can be a little. You were right. It is like halftime. Like we're a little sappy right now.
Yeah,
and we can be.
Right. It's like you're down. You're down 10-0. Go in the locker room, cry it out, come back, win the game.
Okay. I mean, we're gonna win the game regardless, but I just didn't know we were down at the half. So
I mean, there's an occlusion zone. There's a storm wall. Marchion Rowe is living in the Coruscant.
But like we have this strategy.
Yeah,
we have the plays that we know we need to make in this game because we know the enemy.
Yeah, Redacted took out a whiteboard and Redacted also took out a whiteboard, and then both Redacted and Redacted did a thing.
And then dinosaurs.
Where are the dinosaurs? No, they're on Planet X for sure.
Exactly. That's why they have to wear the armor for the dinosaurs.
Imagine we go through all of this only for like all of our Jedi who take back the Nameless to get eaten by a T-Rex. Could you imagine?
I would appreciate the boldness.
Yay, we won. Chomp. Dead. Like Charles Soule's like, 4 to 5 pages in the book. Yeah, it's literally Jurassic Park. T-Rex comes out. Chomp.
Like, those cards that play music? Once you get to those 4 pages, you just hear do 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 record scratch, chomp.
Birthday card. Like it's like a birthday card where you like flip the page. And
That's
it's
it.
like,
Yeah.
How did this get in here?
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's all connected.
Anyway,
John
sorry,
Williams.
had to bring it back up, in order to end this episode.
It's been like simultaneously a very weird episode, but also like a very thoughtful one. And I appreciate that about us. We bring the funnies and we bring the heartfelt emotion.
I hope so.
That's what we try to do. This is
That's
how
all
we
we
like
can
actually
do.
are too. This is like not.
No, we don't put
It's
on
not
a
an
single
act.
thing for this podcast. We maybe just
Yeah.
kind of, we transition more intentionally
Yeah.
when we talk on the podcast. That's really the only difference.
Yeah.
We just yap otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. We're yappers for sure. Yappers of the force. I still think we should rename. We should rebrand.
Well, especially considering you said let's go an hour and we're at an hour 44.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Well, on that note, we never understand the assignment. So, listener, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We will be back. We got some more episodes coming up. We're not going anywhere. I know we took a little bit of a hiatus, but
There might be a
we got
little break
some
before the next one too, but it will be coming.
yeah. We got some good stuff coming. So stay tuned for more. It's a busy fall season and celebration right around the corner, but don't worry, we got you covered. But you can find us on Twitter, Instagram. We post our episodes on YouTube and any podcast platform of your choice. So make sure you follow us for all the latest updates and subscribe for new episodes.
We also have a Patreon. Tiers are just at $1. And we really appreciate our patrons for keeping the lights on here at Friends of the Force very seriously. So thank you so much for your extra support to Brian, Ben, Cheryl, Clay, Comet, David, Emma, Jennifer, Katie, Knights of Ren, Krista, Leanne, Logan, Lucy, Lindsay, Matthew, Nicole, Rob, Ruth, Santa, Skytalkers, Tom, Travis, and our newest patrons, both Sophia and Julia. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you for anyone who took the time to listen to me cry. Again on the pod. I please hope you're staying well, hope you're staying healthy. If you have any booster shots, if you have any new vaccines you got to get before we enter the cold winter months, make sure to schedule those. Stay healthy.
Absolutely. Well, stay warm, everybody. And until next time, may the force be with you always.
Bye.